Good morning, Liz.
Hi, Fab. Welcome to our
This-
listeners. Untangling Tourism Tech, episode 13, brought to you by Tourism Tribe. Where are you today, Fabby?
I am in Agnes Water, Queensland, and yourself, Liz?
I am in Glenelg at the Morfett Racecourse at the TICSA Industry Conference, the South Australian State Industry Conference. And this is day 2, and it's been great. Really lovely to reconnect with clients, and some of the speakers have been fantastic, and it's great. Awesome event.
I'm really excited about our session today. We've been waiting for this one for quite a while. What are we talking about?
What we wanted to do today is to really have a think about the changing roles in the tourism industry because of artificial intelligence. There is no doubt that things are imploding in terms of the roles of the industry, and particularly where we see the greatest risk of change and opportunities for change is in destination marketing organisations. So thinking about state tourism organisations, regional and local tourism organisations, niche associations who are there to support their industry, and most of them play a very active role in marketing the destination or their niche in the industry. They have played for a long time a significant role in the inspiration moving into the planning phase, and they have carved that role out for themselves within the travel purchase cycle. And I know, thinking back to my early days back in the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse and researching the number of user sessions that were happening on government tourism websites and destination marketing websites, they used to sit at quite a healthy level of about 30%. So these trusted websites with verified content coming into them, a lot of that backed up because of the processes of the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse in collecting these business listings from the operators. And I have read recently it's hard to get really qualified data on this when you research it, but that has slid down over time as people turn to other sources. Now, we know that with the rise of AI, large learning model platforms like ChatGPT, the introduction of Gemini or the integration of Gemini into Google search, for example, and then all of the AI-driven itinerary builders that exist out there, like Book.ai and GuideGeek, for example. Most recently, we saw a statistic of 40% of people have used an AI tool for planning their travel. That's massive. And then even a few days ago, I read statistics that were even higher than that and much more discreet in terms of their uses. So this is now being tracked, but that's incredible. 40% of people globally have turned to AI for their travel planning. That obviously tells us that the roles are changing in the travel purchase cycle, and that we are going to see an uprising and creation of many new players in that space. And I think as individuals, as consumers, already we are so empowered to go around all of them, not go to websites initially at all or to Google, but to create our own custom GPTs, for example, to be able to create the travel itineraries that we're looking for. So everything is changing. So I feel it is time that we really think about how we respond to that. And it was back in February that we said, well, we need to understand where the industry is at. And we released our survey to understand the future of artificial intelligence and tourism. And we got some really good qualitative data back from that that gave us a snapshot for February, March of where the Australian industry was at, both from an operator perspective and also a destination marketing DMO perspective. So that was combined with our own research and trying to stay up to date with what's happening and translate that for the industry. This was a really interesting thing just to say, well, where is the industry is at? So I might just go through just a top line of what we found out
Absolutely.
there.
Let's find out where the industry is at, where the gaps and the opportunities are. And keep in mind that was a few months ago now, and things move so fast with AI. So we'll wrap up with some thoughts after we present the results on what you should be doing now.
So what the data told us from the survey, and I might just add that this survey report, these results are all available if you just go into our blog section of our website, you'll be able to find that there. And that is the State of Artificial Intelligence in Tourism is the title of that blog post. So what we found is that a lot of the industry, 79% of DMOs and 71% of operators have adopted at least one AI tool, but where they are using it is for content creation. So the most common tools being used are ChatGPT and Canva Magic Studio. So they are using it for, particularly the operators are using it for social media management and content creation. But what we see is a bit of a difference with the DMOs. It's a little bit more strategic and sophisticated, their use. Yes, they're using it for those purposes, but they are also using it for data analysis, strategic marketing planning, campaign planning, and operators also said that they were using it for personalisation of and itineraries for their customers. So not so much the DMOs doing that, but operators have tapped into that itinerary development. In terms of confidence in using these tools, the DMOs indicated a higher level of confidence, with 38% saying that they felt confident or comfortable with AI, but only 19% of operators said that. We asked them about the challenges that they were facing. Top challenges were a lack of technical expertise at 40%. And I think that rings a real bell for us, and it connects in with the information we've been sharing a lot lately, Fab, about the technical aspects of optimizing your websites for AI engines. So
Yes.
You've been really trying to translate all your research and knowledge so that operators and DMOs know how to increase the chances of coming up in AI summaries, in AI search.
Yeah, it's very interesting on that front. And I think the key takeaway of that is to have a conversation. So what seems like a natural conversation with an AI agent, the technicalities behind it, the structure is very, very technologically heavy. So the more transparency, the more machine learning, the more structuring of the content is required.
Yes, and there's plenty of information on that in a recent blog post also, just this week that you wrote. So once again, direct our listeners over to our blog page to learn about generative engine optimization for their website. And I think, Fab, you broke it down really well in that blog post. And we can also assist with that with a product that we just created this week in response to wanting to help operators and DMOs with this, where we can assist you to do a review and provide you with assistance to optimize your site. Now, the other challenges that we heard about were budget constraints at 31%. And I thought that was interesting because really the current uses of AI, they should be driving costs down or increase productivity and efficiency. So there's an interesting perception there. And there were some privacy concerns as well. And it's funny, in the workshop I ran here yesterday, I showed people just simply how to go in and tighten the security of their ChatGPT account. Also how to customize it with brand voice, etc. And people aren't aware that they can do that on paid accounts. They can actually stop what they're putting into ChatGPT being exposed to teach it to learn more. And then overwhelmingly 85% of respondents said that they think that AI is going to have a really positive impact on their organisation in the next 2 to 3 years. So I think it was great to get that snapshot, but what it didn't show us in any way, and I can see this by looking at DMO's websites and talking to them about what they're doing, is most of them are sitting waiting to see what should we do. So really what we wanted to do in this podcast was make sure we share with you what we think the strategic sort of priorities are for you to move forward, particularly as a DMO, because we've been thinking about it, the data informs us, and we've been working with some DMOs just to help them to understand their next steps rather than waiting, because what are you waiting for? The last thing you want to wait for is perfection. You absolutely need to be adapting now. And I think in terms of thinking about what your new role will be, because if the travel purchase cycle has changed, it has, yes. So it's been linear. We've had an average, consumers have visited an average of 30 websites for years to plan their own trip. That's completely changed now. That means that DMO website is not in the picture a lot of the time in the way people are planning. So the DMO role has to be rethought. And if you think about its role now in terms of curating content, bringing together listings, putting together lovely suggested itineraries, that's great, but it's not enough anymore. And what is the consumer getting instead? They're going to alternative platforms like ChatGPT or AI-driven intelligent chatbots integrated all over the place, not just on websites, can be from Instagram like Guide Geek, and they're getting personalised conversational suggestions, and soon to be with very integrated seamless booking. So if DMOs want to stay in the game, in the travel purchase cycle, want to be part of that, they've got to do that, but they've got to do it differently. And from a consumer perspective and the relationships that DMOs have back right down the line with their regional and local tourism organisations and visitor information centres, I think they're in a very powerful position if they want to start really servicing the customer's needs in a unique way that the commercial players can't. I think it's time for really deep collaboration and a system of bringing the destination together to be able to provide a really sort of concierge service. And I think it's so on point, Fab, that most recently for DCTC in Agnes Water and 1770, for your association there, you've just implemented a chatbot. So what are you finding? What is it telling you in terms of what consumers are doing, and how is that impacting on the organisation?
It's very interesting, Liz. So we've had a chatbot before, but this is actually a chatbot that's manned by real people. We're working with Chat2, and they're outside the destination. So they might not be very familiar to the destination. So they're heavily, obviously, relying on the website content, but not only on the website content, on the website structure to find the information quickly when someone asks a question. And what we found is that obviously the website ranks superbly well in the region. It's got a lot of content, so therefore it brings people to it. But what do people want to know is that they don't want to help themselves. It's a bit like going on the Facebook community group, and I see it all the time. People come, what can I do here? And, you know, local people get frustrated. They said, well, do you do the search on the Facebook community group? No, people just want to get someone to give them the information on a golden platter. And that's exactly what we found on Visit Agnes. You know, visitors are just asking, oh, which caravan park do you recommend where I can park my big rig? Or where can I actually go and watch the sunset? Even though they could search for that themselves on the site, they're just asking the question on the chatbot like they would ask AI and expect to find that answer. But they want to find an answer that helps them plan their trip to Agnes Water. So they want to find someone that's got the intelligence, the insights, the local insights to actually be able to help them get that locals driven great things to do while they're here. Or, you know, you need to be to be a local to know where to park the big rig, and they know, maybe they've searched on the local websites and they haven't found that information because operators may not have gone down that path of writing blog posts of, are we suitable to huge caravan parks? So they asked the local visitor information centre. I mean, but even though our local visitor information centre is not us, their perception is that we are, because we are ranking well, we're visible on search. So what will happen in an AI-driven search, if someone finds your DMO website, how are you going to answer these questions? They want that concierge experience, that know-how of the whole destination, really.
That aligns with what the AI engines want as well. So they want that really deep FAQ type content to say, well, this is a great source. I'm going to put that in my summary. It answers the question, and they've got great user experience and structure, so that's good. So what the consumer wants is exactly what the AI engines want. So if a DMO wants to be relevant in that travel purchase journey, they need to find a way to connect in all of this content to be able to answer these questions and to be able to play that concierge role. So that's why I say I think they're in a unique position because of the tourism ecosystem and these relationships between STO, RTO, LTO, right down the line, visitor information centre. They need to bring it all together. And I think there's a large shift, if I could say, you know, they've got to move from being a listing platform to an AI connected destination system. So yes, the ATDW has been incredibly valuable in terms of providing all of that listing content. And then the DMO websites have used that and presented that in different ways, but that's just not going to cut it anymore. The AI engines have learnt all that already. They know all that. Now they need more. So, you know, it's got to be an AI connected destination system that responds to the different AI tools, AI agents that are going to evolve.
But that needs to be structured. That online presence needs to be structured in a way that AI can read it. Correct. So as you said, these FAQs on a destination site, they need to follow a specific format so that the AI knows that it's an FAQ and they can build the answer that they're going to use with the reasoning capabilities, leveraging these FAQs. So who are the best person to write these FAQs for your region, you know, to get real insight intel? I always think the volunteers at the Visitor Information Centre, where are they going to sit in your AI strategy as a DMO? Because they have that information that the AI will really feed on, or they've got the information that if a visitor lands using AI on your website or calls you using an agent, that's where you're going to shine and make a difference.
Absolutely. So something that came out of our thinking off the back of the report and then working with DMOs has been a strategic framework for them so that they've got something that is very professional to build out from and to personalise it for their destination and the relationships and ecosystem that they're working in. And maybe I could close out this session, Fab, by just summarising that strategic framework in terms of the priorities, because if you're about to do what you've just suggested and go, well, we're going to overhaul our website, going to make sure it's structured well, we're going to get these FAQs, we're going to involve our volunteers, we're going to do this, there's got to be change management process around that because it is a major change. But we don't want DMOs to go, well, that'll take us 6 months. We need to start now and do things incrementally. And that's the first of the strategic recommendations, is that your AI strategy has to be agile. So look for those things that you can do straight away to immediately meet consumer requirements. And that could be addressing some of the technical aspects of your website, like including tags as you train people on in their website, so that makes the content much more findable. But start in increments, have a longer term plan, but be very agile in terms of how you are going to implement. This is not a time to go, we're going to navel gaze for the next 18 months and then get a strategy approved by our board, and then it will take 2 years for implementation. By the time you do that, your business will be dead. Your organisation won't have survived. This is about moving quickly and being celebrating the small wins as you go through, and having an eye on the longer term vision.
And even if we know things will change, the things that we're learning this week will change next week. But the key thing is we're actually starting to dig and uncover what makes sense, whether it's a different tool that will be used later. That knowledge is going to stay with you and your team. Whereas if you just sit here and wait, because, you know, in the news, the big LLMs, they might only end up being 2 or 3 because they started buying each other. Well, that's going to happen, but you need to build your business at the same time. Otherwise, you would have missed so much knowledge, learning, change management, getting your team on board.
Yeah. The second one is training at all levels. So it may be that your board needs to be educated on consumer behavioural change because of AI. What does the technology look like? It's not surprising. Like, I meet people all the time in workshops and forums who haven't yet dabbled. They're just holding back. And that's because they are not in a role that has made them had to do it. They're not in a frontline role or in a marketing role where they've gone, I'm going to give this a try. So training at all levels, board level, certainly you've got to get the know-how and resources, even if it's training your own staff or bringing them in, to know how to transform your website for this window of opportunity that we're in at the moment, where websites are the source of truth for the organisation. How do they optimise it for generative search? And of course, that's the stuff you train on, Fab. But it's like the web developer, your digital marketing manager, they need to have a much more technical ability or understanding, a bit like when this all started back in first, the beginnings of web marketing and web development. There was a whole new breed of marketing person that had to be hired, who had a desire to want to understand the technology behind it.
And that's right. Don't expect your web developer to have the understanding of AI. They're busy in their day job. They might have not done professional development. They might know nothing about that schema. They might have actually never looked at AI coding tools. And I've seen many developers online. They still do the same old. So you're going to have to either gain that knowledge or, as I said, to a small business, if you're hiring an accountant, you need to know enough about bookkeeping yourself to make sure they understand your business. And that just is so true now with AI. Be the master of your own destiny.
Absolutely. The third one is tech partnerships. Don't try to build. Not now. You haven't got time. This is, and also we're in this really experimental mode. So, partner with chatbot providers, itinerary, booking, planning and booking providers, and give it a try. Don't lock into long, deep contracts. Just look for ways to test how your organisation can change manage and integrate this into their organisation, and also the consumer appetite for it and the behaviour. The fourth one is governance and ethics, and this is super important. Like, understand what your consumer communication needs to be. What's your customer? You need to have a very clear customer statement about how you're using AI and your data policies, of course. That's not new. That should have been there before. But make a decision internally around your ethics with your use of AI and how you are going to declare its use. Have policies internally about maintaining your own voice and checking content if it's generated by AI, not breaching copyright laws. And this is very strong for destination organisations because they have so much experience in the destination anyway. They don't need to often be pulling content offline. They've already got it. So they don't have so much risk around copyright in terms of breaching IP and copyright laws by using external content. But declare it and make sure you have an open policy that's published on your website around that, and make sure the staff understand it all. And then the final one is operational efficiency with AI tools, which is where most of the DMOs and operators are at the moment for content and content marketing and social media, and speeding up those processes and making it easier. But really open up culturally the ability for your staff to bring new tools and ideas to the table. How can we save time on this? Show each other, train each other. And I'd say be cautious here as well, because a lot of people are being able to be so much more productive and time efficient. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be letting people have a normal length work week as well, just because they can produce more. We might be able to get a bit of time back here and get a bit of lifestyle back and a bit of rest back. And that's what I'm saying to individuals here at the conference. So those 5 hours a week you're saving because you're using ChatGPT for this, I hope that you're rewarding yourself with those. This is particularly to business owners. And they go, yes, maybe not, maybe I should. Because otherwise we're just going to create this culture of work.
And the emails are going to be sent so professionally, so fast. Hey, we're talking with Fixer AI, the tool that we use. And suddenly people are corresponding so well and so fast that we're just creating more work for everyone.
It's got to be careful. Yeah. So that's the wrap on the strategy. I suppose I'd like to finalise by saying we are happy to work with DMOs to help them through this. It's a really interesting time. We can't say what's next, but we do know that if we put a strategy into it and stay really agile, then at least we're moving forward. And that's really important.
That's right. And if I can add with one little practical tip at the end for DMOs, we're thinking about the future, but have a look at your Google Analytics now, and actually you can implement some rules in your analytics, and I can help you with that, to see how much traffic you're currently getting in your site from these large language models. Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Start getting a real visual or a pie chart, and it doesn't do it by default, as I said, in analytics. But start measuring this slice. Is it getting bigger and bigger and bigger? We're at the very start of something. Start tracking, and just by even looking at the data, it'll just make you move forward and take the steps once you see that growing.
Excellent. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Just tell you that that's very slow.